What is up, Netflix fans, and welcome back to my, You know what? I'm hungry. I'm gonna go get some food. What is up, Netflix fans, and welcome back to my channel. Today we are talking about the brand new Netflix special. The mystery surrounding this thing is incredible. We are talking Black Mirror Bandersnatch. So a young programmer makes a fantasy novel into a game. Soon reality and the virtual world are mixed and start to create confusion. Confusion is a word that you may hear in multiple reviews. Today I'm going to tell you guys my thoughts. If you don't know how my reviews work, I like to talk about the good, the bad, and then give you guys my score. It's been a very busy week. I have given you guys my best and worst Netflix and movies as a whole of 2018. I still have my most anticipated video, but today we are talking Black Mirror. I love Black Mirror. I'm a huge fan. I was so excited when I saw this announcement, and then seeing the trailer got me very intrigued, and then seeing how exactly this worked got me even more intrigued. Let's get into the review. Real quick apology for the audio quality. I'm still waiting on my microphone to get back to me. That will be here eventually, but right now, Black Mirror Bandersnatch. So I will start with this. This is going to be a very different style review because this is a very different style film, if that's what you want to call it. A lot of people are calling it a Netflix special. I guess it's that. But Black Mirror Bandersnatch is something that we have really never seen before. We have seen versions, we have seen interaction between audience and platform before, but we've never seen it done on this level with this IP. Black Mirror is huge, so Netflix knew that a lot of people were going to tune in for this, and it's the perfect show to do it because Black Mirror is always taking risks. It's making mistakes at times, but for the most part, it continues to pay off. It is one of the best shows on Netflix just because it's so different, and you can really add this style of show to its resume because what Bandersnatch did, it's something extremely out there. If you are looking for something with a thorough plot line that has a definitive beginning and ending, that's not what you're going to get in this. This is something that is really going to change the game. Now, it's very meta, and I'll get into that in just a second. It knows exactly what it is. It hits on everything that is happening with us clicking the button. It hits on that in the show. So I don't know if it's something that could necessarily be replicated in different formats, but for what Black Mirror did here and the storyline and everything about it, I think it paid off. Now, do I have issues with the ending that I saw? Yes. Do I have issues with certain things in the story that make it a bit awkward and the pacing a bit off? Of course. But that's something that I'm really going to have to sit and dissect in my head because this story required those things that I just mentioned that could be considered negatives. This story required those to happen for it to accomplish its goal. And its goal at the end of the day is to get audience interaction, to have you so engaged that you care what happens to these characters. And first off, that's set up because we do have very interesting characters here, very interesting actors playing these characters, some great talent in here, but you have to get invested in the story. So Austin, how interesting is the story? Well, Bandersnatch is way more interesting of a concept than I thought it was going to be. I thought going in they were going to use this gimmick, make it interesting, but not as interesting as it actually was. Like I said, it's so meta. There are things that happen in the story. Maybe you've came across these things, maybe you haven't, but the fact that Bandersnatch knows exactly what it is and the characters inside of the show know what it is, I think that allows the audience to sit back and kind of just have fun with this and go through all of the different possibilities. Now, what I loved about this story is that you, as the audience, you get to make the decision, whether it's a very minor character decision, like at the beginning, what cereal is he going to eat? I don't know if that's necessarily going to impact the story, but the decision that I made, I have not went back and tried the other decisions. So is there a butterfly effect here? Does that decision, such a small choice, impact the greater good or impact how the story would have went? Maybe. I have to go back and see. Now, there are also major decisions that are made later on down the line, and I did go back and I did see what happened with different possibilities there, mostly because if you make the wrong choice, sometimes you just roll with it, and sometimes Netflix is like, nah, we're gonna go back, we're gonna redo this, and you're gonna see how it would have happened or how it is happening because they establish in this story, not necessarily a spoiler, but we have the whole multiple timeline thing. What is actually happening? Of course, we don't get all of the answers messages that we want, but we get just enough to where it's super interesting and you are engaged, regardless of if you're actually sitting and hitting the button or not, because if you don't do anything, if you don't press the button, it's going to make the decision for you. Whatever is highlighted happens. I tried it a couple times. So as an audience member, you have to be on your toes. It's not a casual watch. If you just want to sit back, relax, not really pay attention, talk to your family, and that's really what Netflix is for sometimes, Bandersnatch is not the one to do that because you have to be locked in, you have to be engaged. Otherwise, it makes decisions that maybe you didn't want to make. That's the beauty of this story. You get to choose, you get to decide where these characters go. At times, it's a major decision like what is going to happen in this character's future, and then at times, like I said, it's something really small like what do you want her to say next? What do you want him to do next? And then you go to the nature of the film with all of the branching narratives and how they are speaking upon kind of what is happening, the meta aspect. I keep coming back to that, but it's so inventive and creative with what they were doing with the story, regardless of if it goes down the route that you think it's going to go. That's another thing about Bandersnatch. It makes decisions and characters do things, regardless of what you choose. They do things you're like, whoa, this went in a direction that I did not expect it to. Now let me halt the momentum of the review real quick. Like I said, I watched a few versions of the ending, but it all came back to a specific choice that I made about 3/4 of the way through. I haven't watched each definitive ending, so what I say about the ending is maybe not necessarily what is going to reflect your all's thoughts. So if you had a different experience with the ending, I want you guys to comment down below. How did you feel about it? Is this something that you want to go back and try again and see what else you can get? Or were you really satisfied with what happened at the end? I wasn't necessarily satisfied with the ending. I wanted more out of it, but like I said, I only watched 2 or 3 versions. I've heard there are 5 or 6 different versions, and those other versions that I didn't get a chance to watch, they were affected by decisions made earlier on in the film, decisions that it did not necessarily take me back to. So you know what I'm going to have to do? I'm going to have to go through Bandersnatch again, make different decisions, different choices, and see where that leads me down the narrative. One in particular, without spoiling anything, I'm thinking of it, I'm like, maybe I should have made that choice. Maybe that would have given me the ending that I wanted. Guys, regardless of what you think about this show, is it not something that just keeps drawing you back and making you think about it and making you want to go back and make different decisions? I was so frustrated at times. I'm sitting there like, did I do the right thing? Did I make the right choice? And this is just the serial question, man. I'm sitting there like, that looks good. And that looks good, but if I choose that one, then he's going, oh my God, what? Oh my God. It's stressful. It's so stressful. It's not an easy watch. You're going to be stressed about, listen, I can't even make my own life decisions. So having me choose a decision for someone, look, it's different in a video game because at least in a video game, you're used to things like this. But in a movie or a TV show setting, you're like, I may just have to come back and do a spoiler video because there are so many things in here. The Easter eggs. There are so many Easter eggs to other Black Mirror events. I'm not going to say what or where. Just keep a keen eye. Some are very in your face. Some are in the background. But when I saw them, I was like, oh my God, yeah, look at that. When I'm first watching the movie, I'm like, okay, so regardless of the choice, the narrative is always going to go where it wants to go because decisions were being made. Then I would have to go back and replay those decisions because obviously I'm not good enough to make the right one. But then more towards the end, I'm like, no, I never came back to this decision. So if I would have made that decision, then the ending would have been completely different. And I'm just sitting here like, what do I do now? Certain decisions are interesting and then others are absolutely insane. One choice in particular, when they both jump up and things start happening, I'm like, okay, did not expect that. This is way crazier than I ever thought it was going to be. And that's why I think some people are going to have major issues with the narrative. But if you think of it like a satire of sorts, something that knows exactly what it is, then I think you're going to get a lot of enjoyment out of it. And if you don't like it, you can just go back and redo the whole thing. Okay, so this thing is definitely ahead of the curve for this style of filmmaking. There are absolutely limitations when it comes to the technical aspects. One example is you have to cut to the next shot after a choice is made. Before the choice is made, there's always that zoom in of the camera. It's like, all right, I'm making my decision, but while I'm making my decision, we have to, as filmmakers, do something with our characters, so let's do this. That's going to bother some people, and it definitely creates limitations when you want a long shot or a one take. You can't have those when you're having to cut to the next shot because decisions are being made and you have to cut to different shots. So the creative limitations are interesting, but I am so looking forward to seeing how filmmakers, because this will be done again, I'm looking forward to seeing how filmmakers get past that limitation, because you know it will be figured out. Another minor issue I had at times were the dead ends. So sometimes when you would make certain decisions, you would get to a point in the story and it's like, nah, you've really went down the rabbit hole of being completely wrong, and we have to put you at a dead end. And the dead ends to me were like, not necessarily taking me out of the story, but it does bring it to a complete halt, and you have to rewind, do certain things over again, and not be dumb enough to make the same mistake. And this has been a concept that has been causing arguments for years, not necessarily the style of filmmaking, just the idea of multiple endings. It's like, well, my ending wasn't necessarily the best, your ending was a lot better, but that wasn't my experience. My experience was something that was a bit underwhelming. The fact that this was so interesting and the fact that I want to go back and try certain things again, well, it's like, why did characters make that decision? I could have possibly figured it out with different endings. I need to go back, I need to explore all of the endings. Maybe once I do that, I will come out with a spoiler video and tell you guys my true thoughts on the ending. For me, the ending that I got was a bit underwhelming, but that does not take away from the experience that I had and the attachment that I had to the interaction aspect of this thing. It was something completely different. I love when films and television shows, I love when they change the game. Now, some shows, they have changed the game before, but they didn't do it in the right way, and the execution was a little off. Regardless, I was still completely sucked into the experience. Black Mirror Bandersnatch is unlike anything we have ever seen. Right now, I am going to give this an 80%, but who knows, once I go back and once I watch the definitive, the true ending, which may have been what I watched, but I just need to dive back into this thing, guys. The acting was so good and the filmmaking was so impressive that I will not mind going through this again, making different decisions. It's only 90 minutes now. Footage-wise, it's a lot more than 90 minutes because they had to shoot so many things. So I appreciate everything that went into making this. I think it's such a hard thing to do. It's such a hard thing to accomplish. And while it wasn't the tightest narrative I've ever seen, I think Black Mirror Bandersnatch does exactly what it set out to do, and I hope you guys enjoy it, and I hope you guys just get engaged as much as I did. It will be frustrating. We'll be there squeezing the remote saying, I think I made the wrong decision, but that's the beauty of what this show does. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Did you enjoy it? What are your thoughts? Did you hate it? Did you love it? Did it frustrate you? It did all three for me, but at the end of the day, I walked out, or I was sitting on my couch thinking, yeah, that was worth it. I'm going to try my best to watch either Holmes and Watson or Vice this evening. I'll have a review coming out for that. And then my top 10 most anticipated movies of 2019, as well as my Netflix shows ranked. You guys are the absolute best. Thank you for everything that you do, and I'll catch you later.